You got to take like your anti-stress meds or what?
Oh man, took his glasses off.
Oh man.
Oh, put on the.
Oh no.
Oh man, and the hood off.
Oh,
man.
you need some Juice WRLD playing too.
Oh. need some emo music playing in the background.
Welcome back to Season 3 of the Inside Sports Podcast. It is Episode 10. It's your boy, Jay Kruse, along with Ryan and Howard. Shout out to Editor Will. And Ryan, the DE. I've heard rumors it's capitalized. Is that true?
It typically is.
Typically it is... No, not typically. It's always capitalized. These always capitalized. Again, shout out to executive producer Will for making this happen. Got out last week's pod. It kind of was a terrible week, honestly, of sports for a lot of different reasons. We're going to hit every single one of them, but of course, as we always do, we start with Salukis Sports. Combined, we went 0-5 this weekend.
God, that's awful.
And only one of the teams lost one game. The other teams lost 2 games. Mm-hmm. So for the first time in a long time, we're going to lead with football, who dropped to 2-6, Howard.
Yes, it's not as much as like start with winners. It's start with who lost the least, I guess you could say. Football had a interesting week, to say the least. I went out to practice on Wednesday, and you could tell the coaches are like frustrated, even with all the injuries they've sustained and stuff like that. Like they still believe that they can go out and win games, and they started out really hot in this one. I mean, you go up 17-0 in the first half. It's almost like fans at home can turn this one off. It's like, okay, they went out there and handled their business, but that's not how it ended. Indiana State scored 20 unanswered in the second half. Capitalized mainly off 3 turnovers. Jay Curry threw a pick 6 on their first drive in the second half, and then Michael Lindauer, who we've talked about, the GA who's coming on to play backup for SIU because of all the injuries they sustained, but he breaks off it was like a draw or RPO or something like that, and he run 52 yards down the field, but smart Indiana State defenders to keep up on him and strip him from behind, and he fumbles at the 2-yard line, and that's really a swinging play in this one, along with Indiana State driving later in the third quarter, and they ran the ball. Defensive end Jamon Mathis comes up for SIU, and he takes the ball from the running back, and he takes the ball and starts running towards the end zone, but the refs blew the play dead because he stopped forward progress or whatever. So he should have probably had a touchdown, but instead they keep the drive going. They score a touchdown. SIU, they struggled offensively, really. Like I said, the turnovers we converted a 4th and 1 in this game, and to where you think, okay, they can finally fight back against the Sycamores comeback, but you fumble on your 4th and 1 after getting the first down. They go down and score again, and it's like it's so demoralizing. They did a lot of good things on defense, like didn't allow a lot of yards passing, didn't allow a lot of yards rushing, but they did let the quarterback for Indiana State run all over them when he had the opportunity. And like I said, the turnovers are what you really look at for this one, because that's how you blow a game like this, being up 3 scores at the half is by turning the ball over 3 times, and it's a recipe for disaster. So they're 2-6 now, and now you go to play Missouri State this weekend on Saturday, who is 6-2. Not looking great. One of the worst seasons, I guess you could say, that they've had in a little minute.
Yeah, I think, being up 17-7 in that game, and then the controversial strip and score happens, and Luke Martin is he's the play-by-play guy. He's the voice of Salukis Radio, right? He's at pretty much everything. If he's complaining about a call on his Twitter, which he did, that's how you know it was pretty horrendous.
It was bad, bro. It was bad.
That was the quickest forward progress I have ever seen in my entire life. And Greaser, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but that does kill any sort of momentum you have, and it gives it right back to the other team.
Yeah, I didn't see that play. The one that I saw was Michael Lindauer's run, and that just, you're like, oh wow, he's actually doing something. And he actually, fun fact, in Michael Lindauer's 6-year college career, the touchdown pass that they brought him in for on the 1-yard line, that kind of was just like, okay, whatever. But throws a touchdown pass, wide open. Who caught that one?
Keontae. It was Keontae.
Yeah, Keontae Lewis caught it. It's like, okay, great. That was his first collegiate touchdown pass in 6 years.
That's cool moment. It's like it's so crazy how like different the halves were, like first half compared to second half. I mean, yeah, I mean Lindauer he only threw the ball like 2 times. He was 2 for 2, but like they brought him in handoffs a couple of times, like a couple running plays. But crazy how things switched on them like that.
Coming up this weekend, first game in November at Missouri State, a team that is 6-2. They're playing very, very well lately, so wouldn't have the expectations all too high for that one. But hey, I mean, at least Saturday's game was sort of entertaining for a half. I don't know.
For a half.
Not too much to gather. We've been away from home for a long time, by the way, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Last home game was October 12th. We don't get another one until November 9th against Youngstown State, and we'll address that when we get to it. Greaser, I guess I'll let you make the decision on this one. Do we want to go soccer next or volleyball? Because
I think we can go
neither
volleyball
really
next
deserve
because
it.
there's
Okay.
still like a halfway positive note for soccer in here.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, you go ahead, because obviously I wasn't there
Yeah.
this past weekend. I had a wedding to go to, which went great, by the way. Howard, go ahead and take it away. Tell us a little bit about what happened at volleyball this weekend. Two very, very demoralizing defeats.
The first game was it started off so ugly. It started off really ugly. Both teams struggled with receiving. It was Belmont started off 3-0, and then we scored 6 in a row. But outside of that, it was close, but it was ugly. I think the biggest takeaway from this weekend, or I guess the solace you can say, we could have won both of these games, is the outside hitting just wasn't as consistent as we saw last week, for example, where Kelly Franklin and Annabelle Sulis went off. But I took away more from the second game, especially against Murray State, because I guess the differences in what the teams were doing. Murray State did not sub at all. They played with their 6 players and a libero the whole game. They didn't sub once, while we were switching a lot. Kelly Franklin, they really didn't let her serve in the second game. They switched in Brinley Burdett a lot. He played 2 liberos. I can't even say Ava's last name.
Zarnecki.
They played her and also Jillian Shaneyfelt. They put Jillian in when it was time to serve, and when the other team was serving, Murray State was serving, they put in Ava. So it was you could tell Ed was trying to play matchups, trying to do all he can to minimize the mistakes that they have been making, but it was it still wasn't enough. And even when you brought it back to tie the game at 2, or tie the sets at 2, you went up 8-2 in that final set, and you blew a lead. And it's man, it's a lot. Obviously, they didn't have Cecilia Beaumont in this one either. It's a really tough hole to dig them out of, and I don't know. It doesn't even feel like Murray State and Belmont did anything spectacular to beat them. They didn't have, we saw last week, where attacker on opposing side put up 40 kills or whatever throughout the game. It was they just had well-placed hits at well-placed times, and we just couldn't get those things to fall. And you can see, like I said, Ed, especially on Saturday, he did all that he could try to fight back. But they have a tough road ahead if they want to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, they do. Couple quick notes. One, Ed Allen was not the least bit happy when I went to talk to him this morning. I wasn't even going to talk about the games. We were talking about something logistics related, and he was like, if I keep talking about these games, I'm going to get so pissed off. And he has a right to be. I mean, especially so I saw the 4th set of the Belmont game, down 2-1. You're up 20-14 in set 4. And I mean, we've seen this a lot with this team this year, where late in the set, the other team will just be able to go on a run, and we can't get momentum back. And then obviously with Murray State in set 5, you're up 8-3.
Yep. And
that's a discouraging sign for a lot of different reasons. And he told me early on, that's just how this team's going to be. They're going to be able to get taken advantage of in a lot of peculiar situations. But yeah, the vibes were not high. And I don't know if I think this is public knowledge at this point, because I was looking at some of the pictures that they were posting, and I saw Ava was in the game, and I'm like, that's weird. She hasn't played all season.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I realized Cece wasn't there, and her dad unfortunately did pass away last Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she'll play the rest of the season. I doubt she'll play this upcoming weekend when we play UIC and Valpo. But if we are to look at the rest of the schedule from a macro standpoint, right, we're 3-8, which weirdly we went up in the standings after this week because Evansville lost to Indiana State, which I did not see coming at all. There are 4 teams who are 3-8 battling for that last spot. Unfortunately, we only have the tiebreaker over one of them, and it's going to be darn near impossible. I asked Ed this morning, I said, what do you think are the odds we make it to the conference tournament? And he said 10 or 15, and then he looked at the schedule and he was like, you know what, 5%.
Ooh.
5%.
Ouch. Coming from your head coach.
And what it would take, and he talked this out. This is why he was getting mad, because he was thinking about all the games that we've blown, all the different games we should have won.
Mm-hmm.
If we won one of these games that we would have blown, that would help us substantially, right?
Yeah.
Either the Evansville or either of the games this weekend, something like that. We need to go at least 4-3 in our last 7, I think, to have a chance. The teams that seem the most likely we could win, obviously Valparaiso and Missouri State, because we've already beaten them, right? And then Bradley is a team I think we could beat. Now, I believe they swept us the first time we played against them, but I do think they're a team that, and he agreed with me on this, that they are overachieving a little bit. At least they were early in the season. I think they're on a little bit of a skid here lately, so we might be able to take advantage of them. And then another weird thing he told me this morning, he's like, yeah, this team is more comfortable playing on the road, which...
Yeah, they're like.
What does that say about our home atmosphere?
So me and Cooper were doing the stats, and he was like, "Is it always that loud in here?" And it was different this time because the swim team came in, especially Saturday. The swim team came on, and they were in the corner. They were doing all types of crazy stuff.
I saw they were like serving during a timeout and stuff.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. And the refs was like, "No, they can't be over there. They can't be over there," because they were like cutting into the near where the server was. But like, it hasn't been, especially the dog pound is the biggest thing. The dog pound is not really like showed up to that extent. Like I said, the swim team they were louder than the dog pound.
The swim team is by far the best team. If they come to a game, you know they're there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But we're 3-8 in the conference.
Yeah.
We started off 7-3, and we're like 3-9 since then. So it's been tough sledding.
We're gonna need to beat those 3 teams like I mentioned, and then we're going to need a major upset over either UIC, Drake, or Northern Iowa. UIC obviously seemed the most likely. That was the game where it looks like we were about to win the 3rd set and have some serious momentum, and then a bad call at the net kind of thwarted that. So not looking great. And even if we do win those 4 games, like, we're going to need a lot of help.
Yeah.
And we've gotten it to this point. So, I mean, we're still in a position where we could fight, and if we do pull off a huge upset, we might have a chance. But that's about it for volleyball. They play, like I said, upcoming this weekend, UIC, and then on Friday, and then Valparaiso on Saturday. Ryan Greaser, round us off for the, what do we call this? Dogs of the Vet? I don't even really think I've even used the name. I just say
not very much.
Sports. But it is Dogs of the Vet, and round us out with soccer, who, kind of like volleyball, is very, very, very much on a downward spiral toward the end of this season.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, they have not won 5 games in a row, and they've lost, I think, just straight 3 in a row. That was a straight-up loss. And so I was at Thursday's game against Drake. I had to go to shoot video for a class, and that was one of the first times I'd really been able to watch them this year. I think they overachieved. Like, for the talent that they have, I think that they overachieved. They won. I mean, all their games have been close. Like, they've never gotten blown out, but I think that they got lucky in some of those one-score games, to the same extent that they've gotten unlucky. So this is probably about where they should be. But just watching them, like... And Drake's a pretty good soccer team, too, from what I understand. But their offense is just such a one-on-one game. Like, you push the ball up, it's one player going the whole way, and then, there's 3 people on me. Then they're looking to make a pass. Like, there's no methodical building in the midfield at all. It's just... It's like they just ignore the middle section of the field, which makes sense. Like, when you look at their possession stats, like, they don't possess the ball hardly at all. Like, they're constantly either chasing or challenging on their own half of the field to get the ball back. And so they're sitting at 6, 7, and 5. They did, however, qualify for the second time in program history. Barely, but they did. For the second time in program history, they are going to the MVC tournament. They will play Indiana State on Thursday. The recap from Sunday's game was pretty telling. The only quote that got pulled, the SIU Athletics one, was, I want to see if I can count how many words it was. They made the conference tournament for the second time in program history. So that's a big accomplishment. 16 words from Coach Orr. That's it. That is the only quote that they pulled from that press conference. Because, I mean, he's not happy with how this season's turned.
No.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I was just standing at that game. I'm like, oh, my gosh. Like, an angry – is he Scottish?
That's a great question. I think so.
Let's find out.
I think so. I'm gonna say yes.
Like, an angry Scottish guy has one of the, like, sternest voices I've ever heard. Like, it was almost funny. Like, I wanted to laugh a little bit. Like, I actually cut the audio from a lot of the B-roll that I shot because I didn't want the person editing the package to hear me talking over it and laughing at him. But I couldn't tell if he was mad or if he was just, like, projecting his voice a lot of times. But he was definitely mad for a lot of that Drake game, which, understandably so, because they're just... I don't want to say they're not listening because, I mean, soccer, it's such a huge field to cover that, like,
Right.
you make a half a step of a mistake and then all of a sudden you got to run an extra 100 feet. Like, that's what happens. But I think that this team is about... It's not what we thought it was going to be in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
They are not the dominant record-setting team that they looked like a month ago. If they can steal a win against Indiana State, then that's awesome for the program, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them be done.
And I saw these first 2 rounds are at campus sites, so it's not at in Springfield, Missouri, where the rest of the tournament will be played. So they're literally at Indiana State for the game this week. All right. Well, another depressing segment of Dogs at the Vet, but hopefully we get some wins this weekend. I mean, again, pretty much every one of these teams, I think all of them, for different reasons too, but all of them, I think probably, well, soccer may have overachieved. I don't know.
I think soccer should be, like, right where they are. Like, this seems about
like,
right
just
for
like
soccer.
regression from where you were to start the year. Like, you started off super hot, and it's like, obviously you wouldn't, but, like, maybe you should have had these losses early in the season.
If we would have said before the year that we made the conference tournament, I think we'd all be pretty happy with that. But given the way
it ended,
we ended,
yeah, that's definitely...
Yeah, it's definitely not what we would have wanted. But I don't know. Provide us some hope. Let's provide us some hope, dogs. Come on now. We're rooting for you. We always are. All right, let's go to the Told You So segment. Time for the Told You So segment. It's time to talk some football, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a little bit of shakeup in the standings. I have overtaken first place again after I went 5-3. Howard also went 5-3, undefeated in college football. Shout out to Howard Woodard. Ryan, though, 3-5, but you're still in. I mean, listen to these records: 40-26, 39-27, 38-28. I mean, we're all separated by one game.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a down to the wire finish for sure. We've still got a crap ton of games left to go in the season. So many more big ones to do. Where do we want to start? I think we'll start on Friday night. Boise State UNLV. I didn't include it in the picks last week. Ashton Ginty, he had a very, very down game. Only 128 yards on 33 carries, which is 3.9 yards to carry. So he definitely wasn't as effective as he usually has been. But UNLV is a good team, and Boise State still won. They won at 29-24. I'm going to skip this one. We'll come back to that because I want to hear Ryan quickly just give us a couple sentences on Illinois getting crushed by Oregon. I mean, he in his defense, he didn't say to bet the house on it, but he was still very, very confident that Illinois would cover the spread, which ended up being 21.5 points at kickoff, and they lost by 30. So Ryan, go ahead and give us a couple seconds.
I am glad that I don't bet, because if I did, I would have lost quite a bit of money on that game. Yeah, I would have. Oh my gosh, I would have bet so much money that they would have covered that spread. It was more what just everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. They haven't been able to run the ball all year. Like, Josh McCray has been a huge disappointment. Yeah, I don't know. It was just, there was nothing really positive out of that game. I didn't expect it to be good because Oregon is just, they're at least one class, if not two classes above where Illinois is. I mean, Illinois is like solidly in the third tier in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Like, you have like Ohio State, Oregon at the top, and then you can look at like Indiana, probably trying to think who else would go in that second tier. But then Illinois is still a tier below that. Like, they're a ranked team, but they're not one that's like going to pull off like a top 10 upset.
They are still ranked in the AP poll. I think they're ranked 24. They got Minnesota this week, Michigan. They could win out still.
They could. Like, we could go 10-2,
which is a solid season.
Which, I mean, we could be in contention for a New Year's bowl game.
Yeah.
Like, at 10-2, we really could. Which I would be thrilled with.
Absolutely.
Illinois fans anywhere should be like, if Brett Bielema can keep doing this, like, this is perfect. I'm fine with losing to Oregon like that.
Sure.
Because we're never going to recruit like Oregon.
Sure.
We're in Champaign, Illinois, so this is fine.
Ohio State, rough game against Nebraska, which they still won, 21-17. But they had some more O-line injuries. It was revealed that our starting left tackle would be out for the rest of the season when he was playing incredibly. He got hurt in that Oregon game. O-line's going to be a major issue. Quinshon Judkins and Henderson couldn't get anything going on the ground at all. Will Howard actually looked pretty good throwing the ball. I mean, he did throw one bad pick, but I thought he was all right outside of that. Defense stepped it up a little bit, but against Nebraska, Illinois beat them at Nebraska. And we'll talk a little bit more about them later because they got a big game this week. Texas edges Vanderbilt. Now, it was 27-17 late in that game, and then Vanderbilt got a garbage time touchdown. So the score was closer than it actually was. But, I mean, listen, Vanderbilt, they're a solid team. They just are a solid team, and I think they've proven that for the fourth or fifth week in a row at this point. Texas having to go there after the Georgia game was probably a little bit of a letdown, but they got the dub. That's all that matters. Now this one, we had this game on the slate, A&M LSU. Howard's wearing LSU colors today, but they did not do very well in the second half of this game. LSU being up by 10 at halftime. A&M, another team we'll get to on the slate because, they have a huge trap game. I don't think too little of LSU after this one, though. I mean, it's a tough place to go in. They switched QBs at half, and I don't think they were really prepared for that. Another team, I say this every week because they just keep on winning. BYU won at UCF, but UCF, they had a backup QB, so that win doesn't count. Notre Dame destroys Navy. Notre Dame looked like a team that's getting better and better each week. Now, again, Navy, they hadn't really played anybody real yet. Notre Dame crushes them. Indiana won again. Indiana beats Washington 31-17 with a backup QB. Again, we still don't know when Curtis Rourke is coming back, but I believe his name is Tevin Jackson. He's a very capable backup. He's played for a while, and he went in. They won the game. The defense played exceptionally well as well. Thankfully, Ryan and Howard didn't. I asked after I saw on Friday, there was a report that Missouri's quarterback Brady Cook was in a boot, and their starting running back had been ruled out. I'm like, listen, this isn't even the same team I thought that was going to play. So I was like, hey, do you guys mind if I switch my pick from Mizzou to Alabama? And they were fine with it, and thank God, because Alabama won that game by 34 points.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State needed a late field goal and a big defensive stop to beat a bad Kansas team, another team that Illinois beat. Shout out to the Illini.
Shout out.
They survive, and they stay in the Big 12 race. And then finally, another team that's actually on the slate this week, believe it or not, the SMU Mustangs beat Duke 28-27 in overtime. Sounds like an awesome game. Here's the deal. SMU turned the ball over 6 times in this game.
Holy
Duke didn't turn it over at all.
And they still lost?
Lost.
That's pathetic.
I mean, I don't understand how again, +6 turnover margin.
That's crazy.
You lose the game.
It's unheard
at
of.
home.
Yeah.
At home? Dude.
At night. I mean, they had everything went their way, and they still lost that game. So, again, those are just some quick news and notes about college football. It's time for what's becoming my favorite part of the college football segment, the Daily Egyptian Casters poll. This week, I will be putting in the poll after I say it out here. We have a new number 1 team. A new number 1 team, and it's not a team that's been ranked number 1 yet this season in our poll. This is week 3 of the poll. As we always do, we're going to start at number 10 with another new team into the top 10, a team that we haven't had here yet. And I think after their win against Washington, the Indiana Hoosiers showed us that, okay, maybe they can steady the ship here a little bit and stay undefeated until they play Ohio State. They come in with 16 points, ranked number 10. Clemson is at number 9 this week. They had 19 points. Penn State, the Nittany Lions, move up 1 spot from 9 to 8 with 22. Texas A&M, after their win against LSU, they move up from 10 to 7 with 25. Tennessee drops down to 6. I believe they were only at 5, I think, last week. They had 30 points. Miami finally routed a team. Now, granted, it was Florida State, so there's not
Much to say there.
Not too much to brag about there, but Miami, I mean, they won the game comfortably and covered the spread. 32 points for them. In the top 5, Texas back at number 4 with 33, so just 1 point above Miami. I think Miami we'll see how they do this week, but they might be rounding into form here late in the season. Texas, of course, had a nice win over Vanderbilt on the road. Again, given how much better Vanderbilt is, given that it was after the Georgia game, I'm saying that's a nice win for Texas. I think they desperately needed that. Now to the top 3. I don't know if you guys know how this is going to go. I certainly didn't. I don't agree with this top 3 completely, but I think most of America has the same top 3, 4, 5 at this point. Just what order, right? At number 3, actually, there's 2 teams that have the same amount of points. Ohio State and Georgia have 41 points. I'm going to put Georgia at 3 because Ohio State still has 1 first-place vote. So Georgia 3, Ohio State 2, which means the new number 1 team in the country, according to your Daily Egyptian Casters poll, probably rightfully so, is the Oregon Ducks. Oregon comes in ranked number 1. Howard and I both voted them for that number 1 spot after their routing of Illinois on Saturday. Listen, I'll say my explanation first. I think Oregon is the only team in the country that looks like they're getting better each and every week. I don't think you could say the same for anybody else in the country. Is that kind of where you were thinking too?
That's kind of where I was going. Also adding Ohio State, like you talked about the injury to your left tackle. And not being able to run the ball, not a dominant win against Nebraska. I mean, it's trending downwards more than it's trending upwards. And like, I don't know how confident I can be in them going forward at this point. Different than like 2 weeks ago when we were talking about after that close game against Oregon. So that's kind of where I stand.
Ryan Greaser, we still had Ohio State at 1, which I'm flattered by. But what was the logic behind that? I mean, I don't think it's wrong necessarily because we haven't seen them play in a big game yet. We will this week though.
Right. I mean, you guys are talking about the injuries and everything. So Nebraska, to me, they are not a good team. They're not a bad team. And everyone's going to have a down week throughout the season at some point.
True.
And so with all the injuries, shuffling your line around like that, it makes sense why they couldn't run the ball that week, like this last week. So that being said, I think who do they play this week? They're on the sheet.
Penn State.
Penn State. Okay. This is their test to see really should they be number 1. Yeah. Like I'm comfortable leaving them there. It might be a little bit out of spite to Oregon that I just didn't want to rate them at 1 after like emotional damage this weekend, but
emotional damage.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Ohio State still, and you can't even say like, oh, they should be 1 until they're proven that they shouldn't be, because Oregon did beat them. But to me, I would still narrowly take them against Oregon.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put the poll on the sheet. You guys can break it down. Anything, Howard, we'll start with you, that you, in the top 10, you specifically disagree with, something that you had a little bit different than what the consensus ended up being?
I had Indiana higher. That's like the biggest thing I'm noticing. Yeah, I had Indiana at 7.
Oh.
I mean, I don't disagree with that necessarily.
It's like, that's the biggest. I think everything else is pretty spot on to where I had it, but like Indiana, they look like okay. They've really taken a stride from where we thought they would be at the beginning of the season. It's like we talked about it. Like there's not a lot of separations. A lot of separation between those teams after like the top 3.
Yeah.
So like, it's really pick your poison. What you're seeing week to week. Like this could be completely different next week, depending on how these weeks end.
They also haven't had a close game yet. I think they're the only team in the nation that hasn't had a close game yet against anybody. Now, granted, they haven't played anybody that great, but I mean they're dominating. That's what you're supposed to do when you play bad teams. So, Reezer, anything that just really grinds your gears on this list?
No, honestly, this is close to what I had. I had Indiana at 11.
You guys are still pumping Tennessee a little bit, and I just personally I don't see it.
Yeah, I had them.
Like
4.
I understand they beat Bama.
I had them 5.
Howard and Ryan both had them 4, and the only reason they ended up at 6 was because I have them at 10. I'm just not. I don't know. They play Georgia in a couple weeks, so they'll be able to prove themselves when that game happens. But I think that's probably the biggest discrepancy. I had Notre Dame at my top 10. I'm starting to feel it a little bit with them. I think that I don't want to say a win over Navy was.
It was a dominant win over.
But it was
Navy.
a dominant win. They've been playing much better football. And listen, they don't have a tough game on the rest of their schedule. I don't think. I mean, unless you consider USC tough, but I don't think I would at this point.
No, no way.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We all had the same top 15 once again. BYU was 15 with 6. Iowa State 14 with 7. Notre Dame was still 13th with 14. LSU and Bama just missed the top 10. Again, they both were 1 point behind Indiana. So it's not like we think Indiana is so much better than them. That's just kind of how it works. And really, like I was saying earlier, teams 1 through 5 or 6 maybe, if we want to include Tennessee, I think there's a gap between them and the rest in terms of just how confident we are, and who they are and what their identity is. So this is definitely subject to change. Next week is when the first official college football playoff poll comes out, a week later than usual. But anyway, I'm really, really excited to see what the committee thinks, and we'll get an idea of who's still in this thing, because each and every week teams are getting eliminated. And this is going to be one of the more anticipated college football postseasons of all time, obviously, switching to 12. So But before that happens, we must play a 10th week of the season. And in week 10, we've got 3 very, very interesting games. I wouldn't say this is a marquee week, but we've still got some really, really interesting games. And we'll just lead it off with another milestone game this season. It is number 4 Ohio State. Currently, and I'm going to double check this because news is flying around on this Monday. 4.5-point favorites at Penn State, who is currently ranked number 3 in the AP poll. Saturday, it's a noon kickoff on Fox. You hear noon kickoff, you know where I'm going. I'm going with the road team. I'm going with Ohio State, and obviously because it's my boys too. But Drew Aller, I don't know if you guys heard.
Yeah.
Drew Aller did get hurt in the Wisconsin game, but weirdly, their offense didn't really take a step back at all. They brought in their backup quarterback, Sean Pribula, I believe is his name. Now, he couldn't really throw the ball as well as Drew, but he's a little bit more of a running threat, which I think Ohio State has struggled with in the past. And I think, to an extent, if he does play, they'll struggle with that too, even when he's in. I actually think they have a better chance at winning if Aller plays. That's just, I don't know, that's just a weird feeling I have. He's more of a sitting duck back there, and I think even though we don't have a good pass rush, we would be much better off with him than Pribula. So, boys, what are we thinking for this one? Are we riding with me and the Buckeyes, or are we looking at how they've played recently and we're like a little skittish because Penn State did play pretty well at Wisconsin?
They did play well at Wisconsin. I'm still going to stick with Ohio State. I mean, I have them 1 in my casters poll. Like, if I'm not going to stick with my number 1 team to win, then that's just going against all logic that I could even possibly give. I think that Ohio State's going to figure it out. They're going to sort through the line injuries. Quinshon Judkins will get going. To me, Penn State, they are a top 10 team. I've been on the hate train for them all season, so that's not going to stop now. I'm taking Ohio State.
Howard.
I think that's kind of been all of us so far this year, kind of just talking down on Penn State a little bit, just doubting them throughout it all, and I'm leaning Ohio State, but it's just creeping into my head. Man, they're at home. They have a good rush defense, so it could turn into a one-dimensional game for Will Howard if you can't run the ball, and it's I don't know. I think I'm still gonna pick Ohio State, but I'm leaning a little bit. I'm leaning a little bit. I moved them down in the poll. They just haven't looked as dominant recently, and it's compared to what Penn State just did, it's a tough ask for me. So I'm gonna go with the Buckeyes, but I think I'll be hurting a little bit if I lose this one.
Well, you know what? Let me give you some more information that may help you. Okay. This is our bet percentages game of the week, folks. Ryan, what do you think the public currently thinks about this contest in terms of what percent of the bets have been placed on Ohio State and the spread? What percent of the bets do you think have been placed on Penn State? And just for what it's worth, there's so many different places. You get 3.5 at some places, you get 4.5 at others. I said 4.5, but I've seen 3.5 now too. So it's rotating between those two. Ryan Kruse, what do we think?
I'm gonna say Ohio State. They are 4.5-point favorites. I'm gonna put 70% of the money on Ohio State.
Howard.
I'll go 75.
74. So you guys were right around that perfectly. 74% of the bets are on Ohio State. So clearly, people still like the Buckeyes, and I'm leaning heavily into the things that we've been saying about Penn State all year. Hey, we know who they are.
Right.
Now, I said that last week, and they'd still beat Wisconsin, relatively handily. I mean, it was a close game.
Yeah, Wisconsin's not very good.
No, and they're not very good. And eventually Penn State pulled away, and it wasn't really that close in the end. Game number 2. Trap game of all trap games for the Texas A&M Aggies, who are ranked number 10 right now. I believe they were ranked, 7th in the Casters poll. They're going on the road at South Carolina, who is a team that I think, if they hadn't played as tough schedule as they've played so far, would probably be a top 25 team. At this current moment, I am really, really struggling in this game, and I don't necessarily trust Texas A&M's quarterback hokey pokey that they're doing right now. Ryan Kruse, you've made your pick. Do you want to offer us some help with this one? Because I am very much struggling.
I'll let you take a look inside the dome right here. So
whoa,
inside the dome.
Let's
Anyway, Texas A&M. You say that the quarterback switches bother you.
Yes.
To me, that it doesn't bother me as much. I'm thinking. I mean, I think you're right about South Carolina if they hadn't played such a tough schedule, because they played They played Georgia, I think, right?
I don't think.
No,
They've been in dogfights
They
against
played
Bama
Bama
and LSU.
Yeah, the LSU.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, the LSU game they really should have won.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. And then the other loss was to Kentucky, at home by like 30.
Okay.
Yeah, but that seems like
It's a
so
long
long
time
ago
ago,
at this
yeah.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, that they can play teams close, and what's the well, it's 2.5.
2.5 A&M's favored.
I think it could end up being honestly like a 3-point game. I wouldn't be surprised. I would take the over on 2.5. Yeah, I'd definitely take the over on 2.5. But yeah, Texas A&M, their quarterback switches, it doesn't bother me. In college, you can get away with that kind of thing. Now, SIU can't, but other teams with more talent at that position can.
In the FBS.
Yeah, in the FBS you can. So it doesn't bother me. I think Texas A&M wins this one by at least 3. I'm going to say like a touchdown. I don't think it's
Okay.
going to be that close.
Okay, Howard. Anything for you? Or do we need
The thing is, like, when Marcel Reed came into the game, like, they were like handing him off, and he was a beast on the ground. I mean, he scored 3 touchdowns, I think, rushing the ball. So like, they've gone toe to toe with those top teams that we talk about in terms of Bama and LSU, to where like it probably would be that again. But can they actually pull out the win this time? Can they actually get the things to go their way? This is tough because the Gamecocks, they have a good pass rush as well. So it'll be like difficult. And if it's Marcel Reed, where it's like, okay, you have film on him now, where like you know what they want to do with him. Are they going to actually put the ball in his hands, to pass the ball downfield, or do you trust them with that pass rush coming after him? It's like, man, they're going through it. Jay Kruse, talk to me. What do you think?
I am going to go with the South Carolina Gamecocks, and again, I don't really have a ton of football reasons. I think these two teams are very, very similar, especially offensively. If A&M ends up going with Reed, which I think they probably will, I think it's a style of offense that Carolina's used to. I think, and I've heard that their home environment is one of probably the most underrated in the entire country. And we saw that, I crap on noon kickoffs all the time. Well, that game that they played against LSU earlier this year, going nuts. And you could tell. And again, I watch noon games every single week. That's the window that, just the way my schedule works out, those are the games I watch the most. And their noon atmosphere is better than anything I've ever seen. So because of that, here's the other reason I'm picking South Carolina. Can you visual A&M's the only undefeated team in the SEC right now? Like, not overall because they lost to Notre Dame, but
Right.
in the SEC, right? I cannot envision A&M going undefeated in SEC play. You look at the rest of their schedule, right? They play New Mexico State next week. Okay, that's a win. They go on the road at Auburn. I think they'll win that game. Last game is at home against Texas, which, if they're undefeated by that point, they'll probably already clinch for the SEC championship. I just can't envision A&M being a team that is 6-0 in SEC play. This one just has a feel to it. I don't know. It's no football reason for this one, but I'm just going to take South Carolina.
You convinced me. You convinced me to go Gamecocks. I was on the line anyway, but like, good atmosphere at home. The Aggies, like that quarterback situation will be interesting going forward, and it's like, I don't know if I can trust that in a game like this where the Gamecocks, they've been close multiple times. I think this is the one you break through.
Now, if A&M goes out and wins this game by 1 or 100, I will be convinced that they are like a legitimately great team, and that they're going to make some noise in the playoff if they do end up winning this game. So we'll see what happens. This is an interesting game in the SEC for a lot of different reasons. And then finally, a game that I could have never seen coming, being this big in the ACC. I don't even know how many times we've talked about the ACC.
We haven't.
In the pick slate. Probably never, honestly. I don't remember. Was Miami ever on a slate for us?
I think
I don't
once.
think so. Really? Miami?
I think they were.
Against who?
Who would
Maybe
they have
not.
played,
Yeah,
though?
because they haven't.
I know
gone up against them.
Clemson, when they played Georgia, I think they were probably on the slate. Actually, did we even have that game on the slate?
I don't think so.
Probably not, because we were all like, yeah, Georgia's going to crush them. And that's exactly what happened. Pittsburgh. They are 7.5-point underdogs, even though they're higher ranked. 7.5-point underdogs on the at the aforementioned SMU Mustangs, the Pony Express. I got to tell you, this SMU team, now listen, I'm not saying they're playoff good. but I think they're built to win a game like this at home. I think they may have been looking ahead a little bit at Duke, because even though Duke had a good record, personnel-wise, they don't match up with even a team like SMU. So I'm going to take SMU. I also didn't realize, because I haven't watched a ton of the Mustangs, they've been on their backup quarterback all season after the first game of the year. But he's looked really, really good, and they've continued to crush teams. So I'm going to take the Mustangs. They're at home. It's at night. They're going to be pumped. I believe let me look at their schedule real quick. I don't think it's that tough after this game. If they do end up going and winning it, they are 4-0 in the ACC right now. They play Pitt at home versus Boston College, then at Virginia, and then Cal at home. They might be able to go 11-1 in this regular season if they are able to beat Pitt here, and have a chance to potentially to play Clemson or Miami in the championship. Although I don't think any of those three teams play each other. So that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow as we get toward the end of the season in the ACC. But I'm going to take SMU at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Mustangs, too. I mean, we talked about the 6 turnovers they just had to face that type of adversity and still pull out a win. In overtime, they got a clutch breakup on the 2-point conversion. So I think they're rolling a little high right now. I don't really believe in Pitt's undefeated record. So rolling with SMU.
Yeah, Howard took the words out of my mouth talking about the 6 turnover game, still finding a way to win that.
That's very impressive if you really think about it.
Like, I wish that I had known that before, because I would have statted that and looked how many times it's happened, because it cannot be very many.
No, probably
For
not.
sure. No way.
Like, it's probably happened before, but more than like 2 or 3 times, I doubt it.
For a team to have 6 turnovers and then for the other team to not turn it over once, that's got to be a rare occurrence. So.
That is wild. That is wild. All right, so we're going pretty uniform on these picks. We've all got Ohio State, which scares me because I think we all had them against Oregon as well. Me and Howard are going with South Carolina and the upset over A&M, and then we're all going to SMU to take care of business against Pitt at home. Man, it's quickly, we're coming down the home stretch here. By the time you're watching this, it's the month of November, folks. So the crunch time in football season is now. Looking ahead to next week real quick, because I know this is very poor form. But looking ahead to next week, a couple games that pop off the screen. Georgia at Ole Miss. Maybe LSU in Bama is next week, which is probably a playoff elimination game, if I had to guess. Boy, that one. Whew.
Is it in Bama?
It's at LSU.
Oh.
Ooh.
That,
Bama
holy
might
crap,
be out of it.
that is going to be an insane game. And then that's one of the things with the 12-team playoff, right? Like, these two teams have lost 2 games each, but that game next week is going to be insane. And it just makes for more good games each week, I think. I mean, Georgia, Ole Miss, right? Ole Miss loses, they're out. Georgia loses, they're probably not out, but man, like, they're going to be holding on for dear life. Yeah, for freaking sure. All right, that's college football. Let's head over to the NFL and Ryan Greaser. You know what we start with?
We start with state of the team, but Howard's and I's teams are both in the picks this week. So we get to go straight to the Bears.
That's tough. Talk to me, Jay Kruse.
You got to take like your anti-stress meds or what?
Oh, man. Took his glasses off.
Oh, man.
Oh, put on the...
Oh, no.
Oh, man. And the hood off.
Oh,
man.
You need some Juice WRLD playing too?
Oh. Need some emo music playing in the background. What do we got, man? It's a heartbreaking loss.
Would have been so much better if I realized that I was going to have to go first. I would have been like prepared. But now everyone just had to see me do that live. I mean, does this tell you how I feel enough?
I think it does.
I couldn't imagine. In addition to you, I know like a couple Bears fans. I was like, man, they are going through it right now.
I was leaping for joy. Let the record be shown.
Like I couldn't believe. I was like, what? If you didn't know,
I think they know.
Okay.
The Tyreek Stevenson video really made it for me.
Gosh, I want Jay Kruse to go it off because like I thought about it before. Like he would have the most to say on his state of the team. So go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly going to keep it short because everybody knows what happened. I mean, there's nothing I'm going to say that the average 5-year-old child wouldn't be able to pick up himself. I mean, just it's the most Bears loss of all time. Not because of the way they lost, but because I was thinking in my head, as they were lining up for that last Hail Mary attempt, I was thinking to myself, man, we did not deserve to win this game. But we've talked about this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When you play like crap and you still find a way to win, that's the sign of a good team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, in my head, okay, we're a good team now. This is a new era of Bears football. Old Bears don't win this game.
Nope.
Well,
New Bears don't either.
But, yeah, New Bears don't either. So are we even New Bears? I don't know. That's really all I'm going to say. I mean, Shane Waldron was pathetic in this game. The offensive line was pathetic in this game. And Jaden Daniels, to his credit, like, you could tell he was just slightly, he was feeling something, but overall he didn't really look all that different. The defense held the Commanders to 4 field goals, and we don't win the game.
The one time they get in the end zone.
Right, and we don't win the game. But even, like, the most frustrating part is not even the Hail Mary. Because you look at the course of that game, we shouldn't have even been in that position to begin with.
Right.
And I don't even know. Here's the thing. I'm just gonna say this because really the play that upsets me is not even the Hail Mary, because that's such a freak play.
Yeah.
That, like, who do you really blame? I understand Tyreek Stevenson. Like, that video looks bad. I'm not really that mad at him for it, but it did happen to hit off of his hand, of course. But I just think the play that everyone's talking about, and I have mixed emotions on this, is that goal line play. We're down 12-7.
Oh yeah.
But here's the thing. Okay, everyone said that was the worst play call of all time. I don't know if it is, though, because they rep that in practice. Now, granted, DJ Moore came out and said he didn't understand why they ran it. So when he said that, that's when I was taken aback a little bit. But I do understand the idea of not wanting to put the game in a backup center's hands on the goal line.
My boy Doug
And
Kramer.
with a rookie quarterback, too. I mean, I don't really know, in terms of the execution, I don't know whether it's Caleb's fault, whether it was the backup offensive lineman's fault. I don't know, but you really don't want to put it in his hands, especially in a game where you haven't been able to score. Right. Your only touchdown to that point was when your running back finally broke one. Like, you hadn't really put together a real drive all game, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know. What did I say on the sheet, Greaser? For
just straight dead.
No, not straight dead. Just dead.
Yeah. So I will give a quick shout out. That backup center's name is Doug Kramer.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Illinois alum. I just wanted to shout out because
right.
he's from Illinois. He was a dog in college. He was all Big Ten. Anyway.
I'll put my stuff back on.
Because the Packers and Seahawks are playing in the pick slate this week, we will go on to fantasy football. Howard, who you buying this week?
Fantasy football. Fantasy is a crazy concept, man. I mean, I don't know. Just a little spill for me. I was down like 35 points going into Sunday Night Football. I have George Kittle. George Kittle put up like 24 for me. So now I'm down like 9 with Najee Harris.
Oh.
So
that's
he's been good the last 2 weeks though.
Fantasy, yeah.
Yeah, fantasy wise, and like he's had a couple 100-yard rushing games in addition to a touchdown, which probably boosts his stuff a little bit. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm scared. He's definitely hit or miss. But anyway, this week I'm selling Baker Mayfield against the Chiefs. Now Baker, after the losses to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, Godwin for the season, and Edwards for a couple weeks, he still went off against the Falcons. Like he's quarterback 2 in fantasy right now. Like he's still dropping 30 a week in terms of fantasy scoring, but you're still without your receivers. The Chiefs have arguably the best defense in the league. I don't see a world like Baker's still making mistakes, even though he's still slinging it all over the place. So I still think he's gonna struggle in this one without his top 2 guys. I'm also selling Tua against the Bills because they are at the Bills, and we know, if you don't know about the Dolphins' struggle when it gets cold, they struggle mightily, and they still lost yesterday at home against the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm selling Tua in the cold. His second game back, he was all right yesterday in terms of fantasy anyway. I think it was more the defense lost in that game, but I'm selling Tua in the cold, and I'm buying Kyle Pitts. Now, if you have been a fantasy player for the last 3 years or so, you know that Kyle Pitts has been the opposite of buy material in fantasy, but he's been looking better. He had 2 good games in a row. Yesterday, he almost sold his fantasy people with almost fumbling in the end zone on his touchdown, but I think I'm buying him a little bit, and against the Cowboys defense, which we know is prone to give up scoring and yards and all type of stuff, I think Kyle Pitts will go off against that linebacker core, and he'll have a good day. So that's who I'm buying and selling this week. What do you got for me, Jay Kruse?
Buy Bitcoin and sell hope and change. Sell on it. No. Okay, for real. I'm going to buy Kyle Pitts along with Howard. I think Kirk Cousins is one of these guys who when he finds somebody he likes, he'll keep going back to him. You saw it when in Minnesota with Justin Jefferson. So I would buy on Kyle Pitts, and I'll listen. I wanted to do the bit, so I didn't really do research on this, but I'll sell the Dolphins as well, and they're just cursed when they go against the Bills. It's really, really sad. The Dolphins are a team that, outside of the Bears, I'd probably consider like they're my backup team, right? And it's just really sad to see the state of affairs there. That loss to the Cardinals.
That's
Holy
bad.
cow.
Defense sold them.
Defense absolutely sold, and that was the side of the ball that up until this point had actually been looking all right.
Right.
They're a disaster. So sell the entire Dolphins against the Cardinals, or excuse me, against the Bills this week. Well, and the Cardinals too, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm gonna buy Chase Brown against the Raiders. I'm just all on my Illinois guys this week. So Chase Brown, he's on the Bengals. The Raiders this year have given up just like points, not fantasy points, but they have given up 22, 23, 36, 10, but that was against the Browns with Deshaun Watson. So 28, 32, 14, and 27 points. This is a horrible defense. Like almost as bad as like the Panthers. Like Chase Brown has had solid outings in the last few weeks. He hasn't been getting into the end zone, so that's been hurting him. He also doesn't catch the ball a whole lot. But I feel pretty good about him against the Raiders this week. And then I am going to sell Packers pass catchers. We'll get into that more in the picks section, but I am very down on Packers pass catchers for the next few weeks. Now, that does bring us into the picks. So just
Picks, baby.
quick recap of last week. So these were holdover games. The Cardinals, in the lowest viewed game in Monday Night Football history, 1.6 million peak viewers.
Was it only on?
It was only on
Plus,
ESPN
too?
Plus,
Plus.
which is
that's
completely
wild.
why.
It's bad.
But yeah, so the Cardinals just barely beat the
They
Chargers.
almost lost too.
The Ravens really took it to the Buccaneers and the Zinner, Baker Mayfield. The Zinner. And then we go into this last week. The Vikings, their slide, it's really a slide at this point. Like, you lose to the Rams, fair. They did have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back. But still, 2 in a row after starting 5-0. Vikings are on a bit of a slide. It's nice to see the Rams coming back like that. And then Bears Commanders, we talked about that already. And then talk about a good Sunday night game. Even if you're not a fan, it's more likely that you're a hater of at least one of these two teams.
For sure.
49ers and Cowboys. The 49ers took it to the Cowboys in the second half. That was a heck of a game. I was able to watch most of this one. And, well, I turned it on at halftime. Like, it was perfect timing. The third quarter was literally just kicking off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, Cowboys are up right now. Then they were just, 49ers came out and slacked them out of the half. Like 3 touchdowns in the third quarter. I was like, this is over. I kind of stopped paying attention. And then I looked up and I was like, okay, Dallas scored. CeeDee Lamb wide open in the end zone. Fine, that's not going to happen again. The next drive that they have, 50 seconds, exact same thing. CeeDee Lamb wide open in the end zone. I was like, okay, they got a chance to do something here. And then just come up short. George Kittle absolutely torched the Cowboys in this game. He was such a hero for the 49ers and Howard's fantasy team.
Of course.
So, National Tight Ends Day, George Kittle definitely celebrated. Happy National Tight Ends Day.
This was a game where we all picked the Niners, and I was never worried. As close as this game was for the stretches it was, I was never worried that the Cowboys would win this game.
It's just the way things go. The Bills will beat the Dolphins. The Niners will beat the Cowboys and the Packers.
And the Seahawks.
Yeah, that too. We haven't beat them since 2021. So.
Holy crap! I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. So now that takes us into the picks this week. Coming up on Thursday Night Football, we have the Texans, who are 1-point underdogs against Jordan's favorite team in the NFL, the Jets. Jordan,
Yes.
who are you taking this week?
Well, I've already said on the podcast, no matter what, I will pick against the Jets the rest of the season. And I'm going to do that. Now, logically, this sets up for a Jets win.
Exactly.
So had I not put that contingency in place last week, I would be picking the Jets to win this game because, again, Texans off a win, Jets off a humiliating loss, and a bye week, I do believe. right?
Yes.
Ooh, Jets?
No.
Yeah, they didn't play this week, did they?
Ooh,
Yeah, they did.
Jets.
They lost to the
Lost to the
Patriots this week.
Patriots.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Holy shoot. Yeah. Anyway, never mind. I actually feel more confident. More confident now about the. Actually, no. That does fit my criteria.
Take him.
For bounce
Take
back.
him, Jordan. You know you want to.
I'm not gonna do it.
Take him.
Do not.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
I know you want to.
Texans are right with my guy C.J. Stroud. Again, even though on paper and given every principle I stand for when it comes to picking games, I would go Jets here. But I stand on business, and I'm gonna feel like an idiot when the Jets win this game.
I am too, because it's in the back of my head right now. Like the Texans, they are 6-2, but they do not look as good as I think the leap that we thought that they would take. That offensive line looks really bad. The defense does look good. Like Will Anderson is going crazy and all that stuff. Stroud is still doing his thing, but like you're losing pass catchers now. We don't know if Diggs will play in this game. He didn't practice today after coming out of the game yesterday. And now if you would be down to just Tank Dell, I don't know, man. He's been playing superhero ball. Like he is the reason they are 6-2 along with that defense, like I said. But the Jets look so bad. Like they're losing games in different ways. They haven't won since they fired Robert Saleh. I mean, their defense has gotten worse as the season has gone on, probably because of Saleh's departure. Like, there's no way I can pick. Like, the Jets find every way to win, find every way to lose, I should say. And the Texans, even though like they haven't looked as dominant, they're still finding ways to win. So I'm going with Houston.
The Texans are a field goal away from being 7-1 because they lost to the Packers on a last-second field goal. I don't feel as insecure about taking them this week as you guys do because I just believe in how horrible the Jets are. Aaron Rodgers is washed. Like, there's no question. He's washed. And then Jeff Ulbrich, he has not had a good start to his interim head coaching tenure. He is calling defensive plays, but there's talks that that's going to get taken away. So you think about that. That's two coordinators. Both their offensive and defensive coordinator are going to be stripped of play calling duties, and they fired their head coach.
Because, like, he's calling defense, and now you're making him be the head coach and call defense.
Mm-hmm.
You demote Hackett, which makes sense, but, like, there's just so much going on. It's, like, it's impossible for you to play cohesively as a team. So, Jay Kruse, you look a little worried over there. What's going on?
I am extremely worried. The Jets are going to win this game. I'm just going to tell you.
Take him.
But I'm not going to take him.
Do it.
You should take him. You should be right.
I stand on business.
Be right, Jordan.
I stand on business.
No. Here, you're still standing on business. We're giving you a pass.
No, don't give me a pass. This is the problem. I told you guys a couple weeks ago, if I ever pick the Jets again, tell me not to. And you're doing the exact opposite of what I said. So I'm going to power through. I'm going to push through my addiction. I am not going to pick the Jets.
Well, we want to win the King Tut's Cup, so what
Exactly.
we need you to pick the Jets.
Exactly. And yeah. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Okay, our next game takes us into actually state of the team for Howard. The Rams and the Seahawks are matching up Sunday afternoon. Howard, tell us a little bit about the Seahawks lately.
Going into this matchup against the Rams, I don't think there's vibes that could be more different for these teams. The Rams got, like we've talked about, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua coming back. Nacua was a surprise return off of IR, and Kupp was expected to be back, but they still look dominant. Like, they look as good as they've never even missed time or anything like that. Like, Stafford looked great. Nacua and Kupp look great, especially Puka. And the thing about the Rams is, like, they lost Aaron Donald last year, but they really prepared well for his departure with how they added to that defensive line. I mean, the FSU boys, Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, Young and Kobe Turner. I mean, they are really doing their job up there, and that's kind of what they hold on to on the defensive side of the ball. Not really that much in the secondary and the linebacker core, but like compare that to us, we just got destroyed by the Bills. And the thing is, like, I knew it was over when like the Bills started off hot in this game, like 2 good drives, and then Josh Allen actually threw a pick, but we couldn't move the ball offensively. And then we got the ball with that field position off the pick inside the 5-yard line. 4th and goal. Geno trips over Connor Williams, our center.
That was wonderful.
That's like you can't do that against good teams. The Bills, they moved the ball well all day. Keon Coleman kind of bullied Rick Williams on a couple plays off a block, and he mossed him one-handed on a goal line fade. Couldn't stop the run. Probably the worst the defensive line has played all year. They got pushed off the ball all day by the Bills O-line, who was one of the best in the league, and just a very bad day on all fronts. We didn't have DK, couldn't run the ball again. Like I don't know if it's game script or what it is, but like it's probably blocking as well. But like we have not been able to consistently run the ball for like at all for most of this season, and that's not a recipe for success. And against a Rams team who we've had our struggles against in the past, even though we've been, I think, the more talented team, you could say, over the past several years. But, like, we start off 2023 against the Rams at home, and they destroyed us over the middle of the field. Like, it was Stafford, Puka, that was his breakout game, and Kupp. It was like they did their job. And it was like, I could definitely see that after how the defense played yesterday, and even how the offense looked against the Bills' pass rush was in Geno's lap all day. They're optimistic DK can play. I don't know, man. We're riding a roller coaster. We started off 3-0. Then you lost the Lions, which was expected, but then you lost to the Giants. And then the Niners came into your house and beat you. And then the Bills destroyed you in your worst loss of the year, where it's like, after you beat the Falcons last week, which was another high, it's like, man, I don't know. I literally don't know what team I'm going to get this Sunday. So it's like, who knows? I'm rolling with them still for this game, but I'm down with the ship or riding high with it.
Principal play. I'm actually gonna stick to my morals on this one. Rams big win last week. Seahawks big loss the week before. Seahawks are somehow favored in this game.
Yeah,
I think most of America actually would love to see a bet percentages on this one, because I would guess it's like
I'm guessing 80-20.
90-10 Rams.
Yeah,
at least
like
80-20, not like 85-15.
It has to be. I'll look that up, regardless of what it is, even if it's 90-10 the opposite way. Actually, that would make me more confident. Give me the Seahawks. Give me the Seahawks to win the game.
I'm going to go against you guys. I'm going to take the Rams. They looked really good against the Vikings. Like, not many teams have been able to move the ball against them like that this year. I mean, maybe it's the Vikings, their defense. There's enough tape on them now that people are kind of figuring out what they do, which I would love that to be the case. Them being an NFC North opponent, I would love for that to be the case. But even if it isn't, the Rams look fantastic. The Seahawks have been such a roller coaster, and they didn't play well against another, like, quarterback dominant with really good, well, I shouldn't say really good receivers. The Bills receivers are just fine.
Good enough.
Good enough.
Shakir's good. Like I said, Coleman had a great day.
Mark
Yeah,
Cooper.
that was kind of his breakout. Mark Cooper didn't do anything.
Yeah, he didn't do anything, and it was like they still destroyed us. So
Yeah. So I don't have too much hesitation to pick the Rams in this one.
NFC West is a mess, man. It is a mess.
It is.
Who's leading that division? Is it
the Arizona Cardinals, I think.
Are they 4-3?
It's either no, they're not 4. Nobody's over 500, but the Cardinals beat the Niners and the Rams beat the Niners. So I want to say the Niners are last. No, they can't be last. The Niners must be second, and the Rams are last because the Rams are 3 and 4. I think we're third. So
Okay.
I think it's Cardinals,
Cardinals and
Niners,
Niners.
Seahawks, Rams.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Cardinals,
Would
Niners,
not
and
have-
Seahawks are all 4 and 4.
Would not have guessed that coming into the
And
season.
like nobody has dominant wins. I guess we haven't played the Cardinals. We'll play the Rams this week, but like Rams, Cardinals beat the Niners. Niners beat us. I don't think the Rams and Cardinals have played each other, but yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, so it's a much different story over in the NFC North, where we have some of the best teams in football, and record-wise, 2 of them are facing off this weekend, with my Packers traveling to Detroit to play the Lions. So my state of the team is really deflated again this week because Jordan Love got hurt, and unlike last time, where I think I was more worried than Matt LaFleur was last time, because the MCL sprain, I was like, oh my gosh, MCL sprain, like he's not going to come back for weeks and weeks. I honestly wouldn't have expected him to be back until like now with that injury. But he's played the last few games, groin injury, which is just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I get it. Malik Willis, in the games that he played, he got it done. But this is why I faded Packers pass catchers in fantasy, because the game plan is almost assuredly going to be run the ball down their throats no matter what. Let Malik Willis. No, let Malik Willis throw it when he has to, but don't make him do anything more than he has to. The defense was really disappointing this week against the Jags. Like, the Bears beat them by 20. We gave up 27 points to Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. Like, that is not something a good defense really does. I'm just hoping that it was... I mean, all of our players are healthy on defense, too. So, Jeff Hafley's scheme has been really inconsistent so far. They've had amazing games like they did against the Texans, and then they've had really not amazing games like they did against the Jags. This game is hard for me to pick because I love my Packers, and it hurts my soul to pick against them, especially to the Lions. That being said, the Lions are like the one team in the NFC that like I don't feel bad, even though they're a divisional rival. Like, I don't hate the Lions just because they've been so bad for so long that like I had no reason to hate them before. So like
They've been so bad, and now they're good.
yeah, and like I had to sympathize with their fans just
Right.
because like it's not like the Bears where like it's just funny that they've been bad forever and they're still not that great. But I don't know. I'm gonna let you guys talk about this first before I make a pick.
This one is. I thought it was tough, but now that I'm thinking it over a little bit in my head, the Lions are at home. They destroyed the Titans yesterday, and it's like the offense barely even had to like drive down the field. Like they got great special teams returns.
Jared Goff, like he could have not been there, and they
Like
would have won the game.
seriously, like,
Hendon
even
Hooker could have started that game.
David Montgomery threw a touchdown pass. Like they were trolling on the Titans, and it's like even without Aiden Hutchinson, they haven't missed a beat, and it's like Packers. We've talked about the inconsistencies with the defense. Jordan Love's status is up in the air. It's gonna be very tough to go in there and win a game in Detroit, but I think these are the two best teams as of right now in the NFC. When fully healthy, of course, if Jordan Love is playing, but like the NFC isn't as, and I don't think it's been that case in several years. It's not as up to par with the AFC to where like this could be like your NFC championship preview or something like that. So, but as of right now, I think it's more clear that the Lions are playing better, are the better team as of week. What are we 9? Week 9 going?
Yeah, week 9 already.
What do you got, Jay Kruse?
Lions, no hesitation, no question about it. I think we've talked a lot of, I mean, this is a very, like, cliche thing to say about the Packers at this point, but with their aggressive style of defense, we saw the Jags adjust late in that game and be able to move the ball in a result that I was pretty surprised about. I think the Lions, they're not necessarily as aggressive of an offense as I think people
They don't
realize.
have
Like,
to be.
most of their offense is a lot of, like, 10-yard intermediate throws to Amon-Ra St. Brown. They run the ball a lot, and yeah, they throw in a trick play every now and then. But I think it's a kind of offense that can, you know, not only does it give the Packers fits, but it'll give everybody fits. I think this is the game where the Detroit Lions are going to come out and show why. Not only are they the best team in the NFC, but they might be the best team in football right now.
Yeah.
I would pick them to win the Super Bowl. I think there's no question about it. At this current moment,
You would pick them over the Chiefs?
I would pick them over the Chiefs. Yeah.
I'm not going to go so far as to say that, and it hurts me to pick against my own team because I think this is the first time that one of us has picked against our team this year.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're doing it.
I'll never pick against my team. So
Why are you picking against your own team?
Don't call it a vote of no confidence, but it's about as close to one as it can be because I just don't believe in Malik Willis. I believe in Matt LaFleur, but I don't believe in Malik Willis. And even our defense, they got to have a heck of a day to even slow down the Lions. Like, if you hold the Lions to 30 at this point, like, that's a dub.
Probably.
Well, it's not a dub because your offense still has to keep up, but it's a victory for your defense to do that. We are not putting up more than 30 points with Malik Willis at quarterback. Not a chance, unless Josh Jacobs has, like, the best rushing game in NFL history.
It's not confirmed that he'll play 100% though.
Okay.
Like they were encouraged by the initial,
And the spread's only 4, so that makes me think J Love is playing.
like I think, like it's not like an immediate. Like if it was an immediate, oh we're concerned. But like I think they're already optimistic about his status, and this is a pretty pivotal game for playoff seeding and all that type of stuff. To where I think he'll play unless it like really gets bad. Later in the week.
Okay, I'm checking. Just give me like.
And it's in Green Bay, which I did not realize.
Oh,
Is
it is?
in Green Bay?
It's in Green Bay.
Oh wait, never mind. Nope, I'm not going against my team.
I'm still.
I must have misread
It's
it.
in Green Bay. The spread's down to 3.5 now.
Do you guys remember? Was that 2 years ago now? When the end of the season, when Detroit and Green Bay played in
Yes,
Lambeau?
I do.
Of course.
Of course, I remember.
Detroit has won 2 in a row in Lambeau.
Yes, they have.
Maybe
so
more.
I'm not
It was
moved.
at least 2.
That was an incredibly painful game a couple of years ago.
We got into the playoffs because of that. Thank you so
You
much.
did.
Detroit.
Yeah.
And lost to the Niners.
Yeah, they destroyed us. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, common thing in the playoffs with the 49ers. I feel you there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sunday Night Football, we got suddenly not a very enticing matchup with how these teams have played the last couple weeks. We have tired Anthony Richardson and the Colts visiting the Vikings. Colts are 5.5-point underdogs, which I think is probably fair,
Yep.
considering how awful Anthony Richardson has looked. I'll lead this one off because I kind of want to sound off on Anthony Richardson a little bit.
Uh-oh.
So, taking the Vikings to win, just for starters. I've kind of talked about them already. You take yourself out of the game because you're tired.
And he's a freak athlete too.
He is a
Yeah.
freak
He's
athlete.
A freak athlete.
Yeah.
What is he doing?
Well, Colts fans, the few Colts fans that are defending him, well, he's been injured. No.
I think the only excuse, maybe an excuse, is if it wasn't like tired, it was like the wind got knocked out of him or something.
Maybe,
Because how
yeah.
many plays did he sit out? Like 2?
I'm
I
not
think it was just
entirely sure.
one. But
I had
even
the
then,
Bucks up,
like,
couldn't pay attention
I would
to
I
it.
would give more grace if the wind got knocked out of him versus you being tired. Because like I saw some early reactions this morning, like the O-line, they can't do that. They can't
No.
sub out. Receivers can do that. Running backs can do that, even though they didn't do that. They're called out just, to get them off the field in certain spots. But like O-line doesn't do that. Quarterbacks, you never see anything like that. That's your leader.
no, that's like
on
the
the
first
team.
time I've ever seen
Yeah.
or heard of that happening.
Yeah.
Like, that, to me, well, that's just such an anti-team move to do. Like, I don't care who you are. You got to pick yourself up off the ground or get off, like, your knee because you're tired and not even make a play. Just gain yardage. 2 yards. It's still something. Like, it's better than taking yourself out of the game. Now, granted, Joe Flacco's played better than him this year.
100%.
There is not a question. Anthony Richardson was 2 for 15 at one point and finished 10 for 32.
Oh my gosh.
He is the NFL Jalen Milroe. That's what he is.
No, he's worse than Milroe.
I don't think Milroe's that inefficient.
He's worse than Milroe, 100%. I would put Jaden Milroe in that Colts offense over Anthony Richardson.
Wow.
I mean,
That's saying something.
Richardson only played like 9 NFL games at this point, and he didn't play that much in college either. So like,
He's incredibly inexperienced, but he's shown no signs of growth. He showed more regression than
Well,
he has
he's also,
growth.
Yeah.
It doesn't help when you don't play.
Yeah, I mean, he's constantly hurt.
Mhm.
Like,
And that's been the book on him ever since college.
he's just always hurt.
Yep.
And I don't see him lasting even through his rookie contract in Indianapolis, honestly. I think they're going to trade him after probably next year, after his third year, because shown nothing. And I just hope he doesn't lose the locker room off that kind of a thing, because that's just such an awful look to do that. Anyway, Vikings, they will win this game.
yeah, Shane Steichen, the Colts head coach, I think this is the first time he said actually like we'll see in terms of who they'll play at quarterback between Joe Flacco and Richardson, but like I'm not picking Joe Flacco or Richardson to beat this game in Minnesota. I mean, the Vikings need a win bad, and this is must win. And I think they will play Richardson because I think you have to favor development anyway over Flacco trying to win games necessarily, because this is your timeline. Like, this isn't your window to win now. This team isn't winning regardless in terms of as far as the Colts go. So, but the Vikings, they need to show a bounce back on defense. Like, if Richardson lights them up, then we'll have some real conversations about their defense and their regression. But I think Jefferson's probably going to go off. Bounce back game, big spot, Sunday Night Football. Give me Minnesota.
Yep. You remember last time the Colts and Vikings played in Minnesota?
Yeah, it was like that 37-point comeback, wasn't it?
Oh,
The Vikings came back. It was on the
yeah,
weekend before Christmas in
yeah.
2022, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the beginning of
game.
Perk Thuggins, right?
Maybe. I don't remember.
I think that was.
Either way, yeah, I'm gonna ride with you guys. I'm taking Kirk Chains. Sorry, no,
Not Kirk
he's not on the Vikings.
Same
I'm taking. I'm not gonna say that. I'm taking Justin Jefferson, and the Minnesota Vikings are gonna bounce back and I think beat the Colts pretty handily in this game.
Yeah, and then we go to one that across the board, it's been across the board every time they've been on the sheet this year. Bucks at who do you think, for the viewers at home, a team that we've picked, all three of us have picked and been right every single time they've been on the
This
sheet.
is the fifth time.
And we will continue to pick
Yep.
them
This is the fifth time.
every
I think.
single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Bucks at Chiefs, no analysis. We talked about Mike Evans, Chris Godwin being hurt.
Yeah, this could get ugly.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then we have our holdover game, which will be played tonight. Kind of a crappy game.
Which
Giants.
I'm actually kind of nervous about. I actually
Yeah,
think the Giants,
a little bit.
the Giants may be able to go in there and win that game, but I'm not. I think it'll be close, but I'm still writing Steelers.
Yeah, Giants are playing the Steelers tonight on Monday Night Football on ESPN. Not on ESPN. Well, it is on ESPN Plus. It's not exclusively. Thank goodness. So Howard,
Yeah.
take us into the end. This could be the last time that we analyze baseball this year.
For sure.
No more stickball.
Actually, let's think. I think it might actually be because we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and in case it goes to a 7, we got Friday, Saturday.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be done in a week. Wow.
Yeah.
Next time we meet, it'll be free agency discussion. But I don't know, man. The Dodgers they took control of the series, and if you were a Yankees fan, Game 1 has to be like the most heartbreaking loss you could have imagined because Flaherty was dominating early on, and then Giancarlo Stanton hits a homer to put you on top. But the Yankees, and it kind of showed throughout that game, but especially in the bottom of the 8th, where Shohei Ohtani hits a ball off the right field wall. Soto doesn't get a great break on it, and then he throws it in, and it bounces off Gleyber Torres. So Ohtani gets to move up an extra base, get to third, and Mookie Betts drives him in on a sac fly. So we go to extra innings, 2-2. Yankees scratch a lead. Go 3-2, and there's no ghost runner in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So 3-2, you're feeling like the old days a little bit, where it's like, hey, we gotta run the extra innings. We feel pretty good about our chances. Lead off walk. Dodgers move some runners around. It's first and second, right? First and second, 1 out for Ohtani, and guess who they brought in? Nestor Cortez. Nestor Cortez hasn't pitched since the regular season. He didn't pitch in any of the first 2 rounds that the Yankees played anyway.
That's bizarre.
In a situation like this, on the road, in extra innings, you haven't pitched at all in over a month, and you bring him in the face. Is he the greatest player of all time at this point in terms of what he can do pitching and at the plate?
Yeah,
probably.
He actually gets him to pop out down the left field line. Verdugo, amazing play, Alex Verdugo, falling into the stands. They walk Mookie Betts to then want that lefty-righty matchup. Get to Freddie Freeman. You don't really win there. Facing Mookie or Freddie, I don't really hate the move, but I do hate the fact that Nestor was in the first place, and you didn't go to your guy Tim Hill, who's been pretty good for the Yankees, picking him up after I think the White Sox DFA'd him or something like that.
He's impossible to hit in the show, by the way. You know, the show he's impossible to hit.
So yeah, submarine guy, super low, 3/4 guy.
That's why.
You had a chance to bring him in if you're Aaron Boone, but you did opt to use Nestor.
That was a fan move, is what it was.
I don't even think
a fan.
I don't think a
maybe
fan
not a fan
does
move,
that.
but more like a crowd pleaser, I guess. Kind of a move. Bring in Nestor, mustache, the weird leg kick, all that stuff.
Yeah, and you can't even do all that because the bases are loaded and it's too you can't mess around there. First pitch, 93,
kaboom,
inner half. Freddie destroys it. Walk-off grand slam. Rips the Yankees fans' heart out. First World Series game in, like we said, 15 years, and that's how it ends. Then game 2, you just get dominated. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I mean, they showed him why they paid him a $325 million contract. I mean, he dominated the Yankees. And they only had 1 hit through 8 innings. Like, they got destroyed. And it was a Juan Soto home run. I mean, they had literally no offense through that game. And the biggest story with the Yankees has to be, and we talked about it heading into the playoffs, Aaron Judge at the plate. He does not look good. He looks lost. He's in the playoffs as a whole. He's 6 for 40 with 19 strikeouts. He's striking out at over almost a 50% rate. That is insane for a guy who in the regular season is consistently an MVP player.
Mm-hmm.
You can chalk it up, and it's like it's as good as gold that he'll come through for you. Not in the playoffs though.
Yeah,
Not in the playoffs though.
You know what's crazy? I don't hear anybody talking about it.
What's up?
About Aaron Judge's struggles.
I hear Yankees fans talking about it for sure. Yankees fans are frustrated.
I meant from more like a national perspective. Obviously, Yankees fans know about it.
Not
baseball
enough.
isn't really talking about nationally in the first place, but like.
Well, I mean the national baseball people.
I get
are talking about it. And it's funny that Giancarlo Stanton. If you would have told me before this postseason started that Stanton was going to go on the run that he's been on, which he's been crushing the ball, right? I thought the Yankees are easy World Series winners.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, if he's playing like that,
Judge,
they
man.
should be.
I mean, there's talk about moving him down, and Boone is like,
I mean,
I'm not
shoot,
moving him
I mean-
down. But it doesn't matter where you put him. If he's not hitting,
No.
regardless, you're not winning the series. That's what
No.
you need to equalize. You're going up
Yeah.
against Freddie and Mookie and Shohei. Like, you need to equalize with Aaron Judge, and he's not doing that right now.
No.
Like, he's not doing it at all. Scary moment for Dodgers fans when it was like 4-1 in the bottom of the seventh. Shohei going to steal second base, and he hurt his shoulder, sliding in the second. But he's in the lineup. Game 3 today. We're recording this on Monday, so it seems good for him to go. We'll see if it pops back up or something down the line. But Dodgers have control of this series. It's Clark Schmidt versus Walker Buehler tonight. Back in the Bronx. Yankees, I think they need to go undefeated at home. Like, they need to win all 3 of these games at home, because the Dodgers, they and I don't know how they do it. Like, I don't think they'll do it, but like the Dodgers, they just find a way to win. And if Aaron Judge isn't hitting, you have no chance in this one.
Yeah, how sweet would it be for anybody, like, believe me, I'm no Dodgers fan, but I don't like the Yankees even more. How sweet it would be for them to get swept and lose on their own field.
Still haven't won a World Series game
How
in 15 years.
beautiful that would be for
That
baseball.
would be beautiful. I can't lie.
I would love to see that. The only team, and the Dodgers are like the only team that I don't want to see do it.
Right.
But even still, I would, at this point, that's the outcome that I would love to see.
And it is. I think it would be cool. Not cool, but like for the Dodgers to. I don't want them to become Alabama football, but for like next year, we all know that's the team we're chasing.
Mhm.
Right? Because one thing that we talked about on this podcast all year long was like, who really is the best team in the league? We didn't know.
Right.
Like, even though the Dodgers, the way they're playing, it's sort of obvious they were the best team the whole time. We didn't think that. We all had them losing to the Padres.
Right.
Yeah, but then we have to think about how much better the Dodgers get next year just with Shohei pitching again.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the scariest thing. They aren't even close to their like full form
No,
yet.
of course.
The only thing that can stop the Dodgers is what stopped the Yankees to this point, which is just that we need the supporting cast guys to start going down. But because the Dodgers supporting cast is so good, or for a supporting cast are so good, like I don't see them going anywhere for a while.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I figured in this, we talked about this window that they have with signing Shohei, signing Yamamoto. You have Freeman and Mookie locked up. Like, you have a window, and you figure that they will eventually break through, and this is probably the year that they do that.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, are we setting up for a dynasty? Are we setting up for an empire? If they continue to add, because Shohei's contract is so, it's like you could add.
That should be illegal.
It's almost like he's not even there.
And especially all three of us being fans of teams in the National League. Jeez, it's gonna be a rough next decade. Like, you're gonna have to go through LA at some point. And really, if you think about it, like, as disappointing as they have been in the playoffs, most teams that either come out of the NL or the Dodgers themselves, like, they have to go through LA at some point to get there. You saw it with the Nationals in 19. Obviously, the Dodgers won it in 20. The Braves in 21 had to go through LA. The Phillies didn't have to play them, but typically the NL playoffs run through LA, and it sucks. And I think eventually we'll learn to hate them. I think now we're still in like the shock and awe of the Shohei thing. But I think eventually it's going to get a little annoying. So much as I do want them to beat the Yankees this year, I think we should be on alert for that, because it's going to get scary.
That's a good point. Baseball is dwindling down last week of the season, like we said. And,
kind of an underwhelming ending to the season.
For
honestly.
sure. Like it was like I talked about how hyped up it would have been, how the series it was with Dodgers Yankees. We don't actually get this often in baseball, and it's like Yankees are really didn't show up to play. So we'll see how it ends, how it goes in the Bronx. What do we got next?
You want to give us a couple NBA buy sell hold, or do you just
I can do a little NBA and kind of just study on the one team in particular who I sold last week in the Denver Nuggets.
Sure.
I expect them to look worse, but they look worse than I expected.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
they do.
Jamal Murray, like we talked about, that outside of those game winners that he had in the playoffs last year, he didn't look good, and now he really doesn't look good. And they're so dependent on Nikola Jokic. It's like they are really, like, they need him in the game if they don't score. They picked up Russell Westbrook this offseason.
Yay.
He's been terrible. He's been very bad.
he's the worst guy for their team.
He has been.
Could not have picked a worse player.
Like, he's like, I don't know. But they haven't got that help from the second unit. Like, they are really struggling when Jokic isn't on the floor. And that is very unsustainable when you're going up against deep teams like two teams who I think at this point you could say they're the two best in their conferences easily, in the Celtics and the Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how the Thunder aren't the clear favorites in the West right now. The Nuggets, it's so hard to win games when you don't have a deep team, a deep roster, a deep bench.
Yeah.
You need those guys to come through, and I don't think they'll do it anytime soon. I talked about the Celtics and Thunder. Celtics destroyed the Knicks to open the season. They tied the record for threes made. They could have easily broke it if they didn't get one of the 100 attempts they threw in the last 8 minutes or so. But they look good again, and they're probably the team that has the best chance to go back to back since the Warriors in their dynasty run. So the Thunder, Chet Holmgren, man, Thunder played the Nuggets last week. He's really good. Like he especially defensively, I think is the underrated part of him. Like he is a rim protector. And they are just deep. They're deep. They're guys on the bench that talked about the second unit. That's probably the biggest difference between them and the Nuggets. I mean, guys like Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, in addition to Shea, J-Dub, Jalen Williams, and Chet. I mean, they are deep. Like they are extremely deep. Like they have a whole second unit that can go toe to toe with a lot of teams in the league. I mean, they are primed for the future, and they have the Clippers pick. Clippers don't look as bad as I thought they would. Starting off with James Harden, Zubac looks good. And if they, like I said, if the Clippers were bad, Thunder would have the number one pick or top pick. They'll still probably have a pretty decent pick in that Shea trade, the infamous Shea trade. But NBA's been good. The Lakers look good, undefeated in the JJ Redick era so far. They're finally playing through Anthony Davis, which is what they probably should have been doing for a while now. He looks really dominant. Rui looks good. Austin Reeves looks good. So they're not asking LeBron to carry the load as he's had to, and that's probably what's better for the team moving forward. But not too much to take away. Hornets look good. Hornets look LaMelo. That they're contingent on LaMelo being healthy.
Yeah,
but
LaMelo's gonna play about 10 more games and then hurt again.
Hey man, don't wish that on. I need the fans to have some hope down there.
So you have an excuse to watch Eric Collins
exactly,
games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they look good. They new head coach in Charles Lee, who came from Boston, so putting more emphasis on defense and stuff like that. But good week so far in the NBA.
I won my fantasy basketball matchup.
I did as well.
There we go.
So I was sweating it. My opponent had basically all Hawks. Like he had 4 Hawks.
Really?
Yeah, 4 Hawks.
Wow.
Yesterday they played the Grizzlies. Started off a little worried. He had like Risa Shea, Okongwu, Dyson Daniels. Like he had like everybody except Trae Young basically was on his team.
Right.
Cuts through, came through. Good week in NBA.
Good week. All right, now it's on to dog treats. Ryan Greaser, I'm going to ask you a question. Is your dog treat something positive or negative?
I actually literally just now switched my dog treat. As Howard was speaking in the last 15
that you
seconds.
To positive or negative?
It's positive.
Okay, so we're going to leave the people on a positive note. Let's go on a negative note first. Howard, talking about Hall of Fame busts.
I think I know what you're going for with this.
That could be misconstrued in a different way, but
so this is kind of two-parted a little bit. Related to the NBA, yesterday Miami Heat retired Dwayne Wade, or he went to their Ring of Honor or whatever.
That kind of bust.
And I think we've seen this a couple times now. Infamously, also not last year or whatever it was in the last several years with Kobe Bryant, his bust, and I don't know what's going on with these people who make these statues. And I'm not talking you can tell who that is.
No.
Not getting remotely close with the when we're talking about the facial recognition and appearance of these guys. I mean, I've seen people talk about you can't even tell. Some people can't tell what ethnicity the guy is in the statue. It's man, what are we doing? I've seen people with you messing up print typos on this. What are we doing? When we're these people are supposed to be statues and pillars of our organization, all that stuff, and we're not doing everything we can to not mess up. First of all, with their face where you can't even recognize them,
awful.
And typos on the what are we doing with these people? What do we got?
My question is how does nobody how do they not have a supervisor that goes through and double checks all this stuff? and it's the freaking Heat. It's not like they don't have money.
Yeah.
They
Right.
can change it up or just take the head off and redo the head. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. We'll show the picture right here. Isn't that disgusting? That's
Terrible.
absolutely
Put a
disgusting.
full screen even. Like,
Okay, full screen it. Yeah.
Full screen it.
Like, do we want to do that to the people?
jump scare a little bit.
Jump scare.
Put a
It
jump
is
scare
Halloween
warning.
weekend.
Yeah.
So
But it's especially NBA too. I think it's the NBA
Yeah, because
mainly.
Kobe's statue was really bad
Kobe's
a couple
was
years ago.
crazy. I was like, what is going on? So we had that. Okay, the second part is, if you were to go to the Hall of Fame for something, for like a specific thing, like I'm not talking about like a category for Hall of Fame. Like I'm not talking about NFL, NBA Hall of Fame. I'm talking about the Hall of Fame of so and so. So what would you go into the Hall of Fame for? Now to start off,
That's crazy.
I have a real answer. I don't know if I should say it on the podcast, but
to start off, I think I'll go with the Hall of Fame of running up and down the stairs.
oh really?
Yeah.
You're
I think I'm efficient, especially when like I gotta get somewhere pretty fast, something like that.
Are
I
you
think I
like a jump down the last like 5 stairs or
No,
something
not-
kind of
not-
guy?
no. He's talking about touching every step.
Yeah, I can do every step,
Oh.
super fast, super efficient. Jumping down the stair, that's some kindergarten stuff. We don't do it. That's skipping steps. We don't need to skip steps. But I think I can make it down and up. Down especially. Down is light work. You know what I'm saying? Down is light work. But if I gotta get there, give me 5 minutes, get somewhere. Like, oh, time's running out. Like I'm in a cartoon or something, or like I'm in the time's kind of in a suspenseful movie. I can make it down those steps or up the steps pretty quickly. So I think that's my Hall of Fame.
Dang, Greaser, do you have something? Because I'm a little stuck here.
I don't think that there's anything that like I would be in the top like percentage of. I think like maybe like typos when I'm typing on my computer, like
okay.
1-letter typos. Like I can always get the message across, but I'm gonna put like an extra word, or like I'll click the space bar like 1 letter early or something. So like you can tell what I was putting, but like just the wrong word. That's like the only thing, because I do that so much, and that's not even like a good thing. Like at least getting down the stairs fast is kind of cool. Like this is just an annoying thing, because then in Google Docs you have like the little line underneath it. So I think that's about the only thing for me.
Okay, well, I don't know if I'd be in the Hall of Fame for this, but this is the only thing I could think of. I am, if we're on a road trip, let's say it's 4 people, no matter what group of people it is, for the most part, as long as they're Americans, pretty much, I would be able to find I will be able to put together a Spotify playlist, and the entire time everybody in the car is bumping, and they're having an insanely good time. I feel like I can read a room of people's song choices better than anybody, no matter what age group, no matter where you come from. I feel like I can put together a killer playlist.
That's impressive. That's a good skill.
Yeah.
That's a great skill.
It's it's not, you don't have to use it very often, but when
Right.
you do, it comes in clutch, and people appreciate it too. People appreciate it. So I guess
No,
that's what I was
totally
gonna
appreciate that.
The other thing I was just actually, I'm not even gonna say it. Let's just move on. The other sad thing, and there's a reason I got these back on, because I'm gonna go on another quick Chicago sports sucked diatribe. They are on one of the worst run. If you think about it for a second, the city of Chicago is on one of the worst runs a city has been on in a long time. Basically, now the White Sox. How many games when the White Sox were like kind of good? Like, did they win? I don't even think they won a series, did they?
Nope, they didn't win a
They got
series.
swept by the Astros in that.
I think they
series.
won like
Not
They
swept,
won
but
like
they
one
won
game
one
against the
game.
Astros, I think.
yeah, they won like 90 games that season, and then maybe like one
Did
against.
they
the
win that
Astros.
division that year?
I-
Man, that feels like such a long time.
I think they
They won it
did.
in 21, I believe.
Yeah,
In
Was
2021.
that was the year they made the playoffs, right?
yeah.
And I don't think they've won one since. I don't think they've been back since.
They haven't had a winning season since.
Right. The point I'm trying to make here is that like the city of Chicago is on a terrible run, and this would be true whether or not the Bears won yesterday. But because the Bears lost in the way they did yesterday, I was just thinking about it. And I was just thinking about myself as a fan, and I posted this yesterday. Like, I'm not from Chicago, or anywhere really that close. If you consider 3 hours close, I chose to be a fan of Chicago teams. My whole family. If you looked at a map of where my family, the people I grew up around, like a map of where their teams are, it's all over the place. Like nobody, I'm the only person in my family who's pretty much all Chicago, pretty much. Like think about it. I think that the city of Chicago, they got a run from 2 franchises, like from the Bulls in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they actually had a relatively good 2000s and early 2010s, right? So they had like a 30-year run of being pretty solid.
Yeah, they were bad in the
Or
early
not
2000s.
30, probably. I don't know. They had some good years in
Yeah.
there. The Cubs were actually made the playoffs a good amount in the 2000s. But then when the Cubs won in 2016, it seems like since then the city of Chicago has been cursed.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen it with the Bulls. I mean, every time the Bulls look like they have life, their point guard gets hurt. Whether it was D Rose, whether it was Rondo that one year against the Celtics when we went up 2-0 against the 1-seed Celtics, and then Rondo gets hurt, or whether it was Lonzo Ball a couple of years ago. Curse, and obviously the Bears are just one big curse. It's just
Even the Blackhawks have been bad since
the
their
Blackhawks,
their third
they
cup.
win
Like
3,
they've been.
and then right after that, there's this like big scandal where like there's a bunch of sexual harassment or like somebody assaulted. I don't even know the full details, but like their organization got sent back 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
The only city I could think of that had a worse stretch than this may have been like Detroit.
Yeah.
From like 2014 to now, basically. Like they just now got back.
Yeah, because the
just
Tigers were
really-
terrible.
The Tigers, and then
Pistons
obviously
have
with
been
what
bad.
the Lions have been doing the last few years. But outside of that, like the Pistons have been awful for a long time.
Pistons
Like really, like you said, for eternity, but since the Bad Boys Pistons,
Mm-hmm.
it's been really rough.
It's been really.
Well,
really
you mean the
rough.
Bad Boys 2 Pistons or like the original Bad Boys?
The Bad Boys that won a championship.
Yeah, fair
They
enough.
won in 04 too, though.
Yeah.
With Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace and
But like
all those boys.
And
you
Darko.
could say 04.
But yeah, outside of that, I mean,
Yeah.
Detroit's the only city I could think of that's been so bad. So, yeah, this is a terrible run for the city. It's a terrible run for me. I think I've only seen like the only playoff win that I've seen since like my sophomore year was like the Bulls beat the Bucks in one game. The year Lonzo got hurt, I think they lost
Yeah.
in 5. And they won like game 2 or something, and like since then I don't think I've seen a playoff win. So it's been
I think that'd be right.
it's been
Yeah.
almost 3 years since I've seen a playoff win, and I'm dead. I'm down
Ouch.
bad.
Yeah.
Sucks, guys.
Well,
Sucks.
we'll end on a little bit more of a positive note over here. So, I did look up after we talked about that 6 turnover game.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what's the most turnovers that a team's ever had in a game and still won? This goes all the way back to 1943.
Ooh,
We're
whoa.
talking like real leather helmets. Like,
No pad.
the
Wait,
tr-
not the ones that Illinois used. The other one.
no, we're talking like no pads besides like a piece of leather that you like strapped around your shoulder, and then just nothing, like actual plumbers playing football. Like Purdue playing actually Illinois. It was
Wow.
Purdue at Illinois. Purdue had 11 turnovers. They lost 9 fumbles and threw 2 interceptions.
What?
And they punted twice and had one blocked. That was returned for a touchdown, and Purdue still won.
What was the score?
Wow.
The score was 40-21.
What?
How do they have that many possessions? Or else, does it like break down how they scored or something?
11 turnovers
doesn't.
and
It
21
doesn't.
points?
Yeah,
That's so bad.
I need
Yeah.
to see.
But like we said,
that
this is
box
also
score.
plumbers playing. So.
yeah. I want to see if I can find this box score because it's just insane. Purdue was also undefeated that year, so they might claim a national championship that year. They probably do.
They definitely rigged something. There's no way you have 11 turnovers and win that game.
Yeah, I'm looking.
That is unbelievable.
So Purdue was the Big Ten co-champions that year. I'm looking up box scores right now to see if I can find any.
I wonder what the last time a team had 6 turnovers was. Like, not the first time, you had an obscene amount of turnovers, but like SMU did where you had 6 and you still won. Or just 6 turnovers in general even, Because that's, like I said, that's an insane.
I think last year, I remember this, Miami was playing Duke. It was either last year or the year before. Miami had 8 turnovers. No, they did not win the game.
Oof.
They did not win the game. Don't get it twisted. But I know Miami had 8 either last year or the year before, something like that.
That's unreal, man.
Unfortunately, you cannot find. I'm even on sportreference.com. Like, if they don't
I
have
mean,
it,
they
no
didn't keep detailed box scores back in 1943.
Yeah, if Sports
World War
Reference
II wasn't
doesn't
even
have,
over yet.
yeah, seriously, like you think about that, that's over 80 years ago.
Sheesh.
Purdue was not able to claim a national championship that year. They only finished 5th in the AP poll.
Who did claim it? Just out of curiosity. Who did claim the national
let me look.
championship that year?
1943 NCAA.
We started this
football
podcast off talking about
national champs.
Michael Lindauer, and we ended talking about the 1943
Notre Dame.
national championship.
Yeah,
Over
that's
four. They
not
probably rigged
surprising.
it. They probably rigged it. And with that being said, folks, if you're listening on Spotify, please check out the new YouTube channel at Inside Sports. This podcast will hopefully be out on Friday, anywhere in that Thursday to Saturday windows where you can expect it. For Howard Woodard and Ryan Greaser, this is Jordan Kruse signing off. Hopefully next week's pod will be a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more exciting. Have some wins to talk about.
Please.
We'll see you next week. Go
Hopefully.
Dogs.
Go
Go
Dogs.
Dogs.